Happy Friday morning. It is Arkansas week, a rivalry game. And I'm here with my road dogs, Justin, Evan, Ian, Joe. And we're going to break down the matchup. We're going to let you know exactly what you need to know for this game. And then also, we'll do some predictions at the end. Evan, if you haven't thought yours up, get it ready, brother. All right, guys, $1 for your first week. If you're a new member, if you're an old member, you're already there. Come hang out. Join Inside Texas, awesome board, active community, smart, funny, engaging, and also all my dudes. They be writing over there, and you would enjoy to hear what they have to say. All right, Justin, we are returning home. We are playing Arkansas at home, if you are not aware. What does this mean? Yeah, no, shocking. What does this mean for recruiting for the Texas Longhorns?
So this is actually going to be a fun recruiting weekend. Texas is really, really wanting to finish up 2026 strong. I think they're, after a lot of the re-rankings, Joe, you can correct me. I think they're number 8 or number 9 in the country right now. They're definitely in the top 10, but they got some flip targets on their mind. And let's start with the biggest and the baddest and the best. And that's number 1 defensive lineman in the country out of New Orleans, Edna Carr. That's Richard Anderson. I think he's about 6'5". He was 340, but I think he's gotten down to like 325, 330. He's a big, big boy. He's been committed to LSU for the longest, but since there's so much coaching upheaval in Baton Rouge, he's been talking to Texas and Alan Clark for a while, and Kenny Baker's gotten close to him. He's going to be on campus this weekend. It's going to be an official visit. I'm told he could be coming in really late tonight or early in the morning, but it's going to be an OV. That's a big thing. They processed Dylan Berryman a few weeks ago, the 4-star out of Ouachita Parish in Monroe. Richard Anderson would be a really, really, really nice trade up if you could throw him into that haul. And then you got a pair of Central Texas kids that they grew up Texas Longhorn fans and have had really good junior and senior seasons. They've really progressed. We'll start with running back Jet Walker. He's a legit 6'2", 205, 210. We had somebody on the board at Inside Texas that said he had seen him in person and he questioned if he was 6 foot. I stood beside him. That brother is big, strong, and strapped. He is a big kid. He looks like one of those Big Ten running backs in a sense, like from Wisconsin or somewhere. Committed to Minnesota, if that gives you any indication. He's got a previous relationship with Chad Scott. That's actually why he committed to West Virginia back in the day. And so they kept that relationship close. Texas always only wanted one running back in this cycle. But there's going to be some guys in the running back room currently that are not going to return in January. They're gonna lose a few guys, so the numbers have to increase, and that's why Jet Walker is a guy that they're going after. I love their chances to flip him, and it's not a threat to Derek Cooper. They told Cooper about it before they brought him in, and so everybody's on the same page. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas can flip him. He's got a teammate, Caden Scherer, who actually, after watching him a little bit, he plays left tackle, 6'6", about 275, 280, really good feet. Really smart, committed to Stanford, which, in the last 5 or 10 years, that's actually a pretty good little standard when you're looking for tight ends and offensive linemen. Thing about Caden, he could be a center. He could be a guard. Like, there's some real versatility here. Kyle Flood loves the fact that he's got the frame, he's got the feet, and he's got the mindset. And he's not one of those kids that says, I have to play tackle or, I have to be at a specific position. He's like, I'm going to play wherever coach tells me to play, wherever I can be the biggest need. That's the other flip target from Georgetown. He grew up a Horns fan as well. And so, I think the Horns are in a really good position with these 3 guys. And so it's going to make – we got a big list. Charlie had posted another list yesterday. I'm going to have more notes and stuff on the recruiting humidor coming up here in just a bit to kind of give you an idea, because there's some other guys. Listen, Bryson Martinez, 4-star offensive tackle for 2026 LSU commit. He's taking an official visit this weekend. Julian Campbell, one of the top receivers in 2027 out of Argyle, he's going to be in. It's going to be a nice little recruiting weekend. If Texas can really galvanize these guys and rally and whoop Arkansas, I think it'll really go strong towards flipping a few of these guys and finishing this 2026 class strong, considering we're 2 weeks from early national signing.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. Evan, you've been on the beat, man. You've been watching, you've been listening, you've been asking questions. Sark normally has his themes of the week. Of course, this week was very eventful and fun. But so I know what your lead hook is going to be, but so start with that, and then what else was Sark kind of preaching throughout the week?
Yeah, you got me on for the fun one, talking about Joe Schmo, Desmond Howard. Yeah, Sarkisian on Wednesday really took forward and addressed those rumors, because those Wednesday press conferences, as Joe and I have talked about, are usually pretty light, just about 4 questions, 10 minutes total, nothing much, just around the SEC. But Sarkisian stepped in before anyone could ask a question, really addressed all those rumors, said, I'm not going anywhere. I don't know where those reports came from, but this is the place I want to coach at. And in my opinion, I thought he did a great job of addressing them, doing what he needed to do front-facing towards the public to help out with things like recruiting, because he's already talked about tampering issues, kind of alleged it on Wednesday, and then on Thursday talked about how, yeah, like there were some coaches that we don't know if it's directly to players or just to agents or even families, but some coaches have taken advantage of the idea that maybe Sarkisian won't be at Texas next year. And with the way that Sark recruits out of state, of course, that's a easy way for coaches from those states to say, hey, you're a kid from Florida, I coach in Florida, your coach might not be there. Come on over back home. But yeah, Sark, I thought, did a great job of addressing that and talking about just those rumors and things that kind of need to be put in the past as Texas looks forward to 2 very, very important games, not just for playoff implications, but a lot of like politics of just making sure you're not ending the year 7-5 and beating your rivals, all of that. Did talk about how he's trying to make this more of a rivalry than maybe some of these players are used to growing up, because these kids born in the 2000s, someone like me wasn't really associating Arkansas and Texas as rivals, but he's brought in guys from those 60s days when it was number 1 versus number 2 playing for national championships. I believe it was Ted Coy, the former tight end, we brought into practice. I think he said every day this week to talk to his players about just what this means to people at Texas, people in Arkansas, and how important this type of game is. And you think that the players are going to get that message, having people, some really successful guys from the Longhorns past coming in. Talked about that with Michael Huff as well, who went to practice on Wednesday to talk to some of the players about, honestly, redshirting seemed to be the most important message that came from it, because Huff obviously redshirted his first year, and by year 5, he was winning a Thorpe Award, going top 10 in the NFL draft. And on that Thursday Zoom we had, he said some players were surprised to hear that they didn't know that story about Huff, that this guy really waited his turn to get there. And Sarkisian knows that in this current day and age, people are reactionary. They want to get that instant gratification. They want to be starting, if not year 1, year 2. And for some 5-stars that are playing on some of these talented rosters, it's a hard pill to swallow to say, hey, I'm not going to be the number 1 guy as soon as I get to campus, even though that's how I've been playing football since middle school. But the other big news for Texas outside of any Desmond Howard rumors is, of course, Anthony Hill's health. That's kind of the big elephant in the room. Inside Texas has reported this week that we don't expect him to play. He still remains questionable. Sarkisian still says he's limited, continues to say he'll be limited throughout this week. And if your linebacker is limited, I'm not sure how much that means. He's going to be able to play on a Saturday. It was questionable on Thursday night. Ryan Wingo, still probable. That's when we feel confident about being able to play. But that just means a chance for Leongo Lafau and Anthony Smith to step up, as well as Trey Moore and Brad Spence to get more of that off-ball linebacker look. Talked about both of them. Really like the progression Lafau's had this year. Versatility was a big thing he said with him. For Smith, it was speed. So Texas should, they'll miss their head guy at linebacker in Hill, but they at least have the guys to fill in there and the bodies in Moore and Spence if they need that backup help to go in and play some real football out there. So a lot of this with Sarkisian this week was A, talking about those rumors, and B, just making sure that the culture is on a good level, because as much as we talk about culture all year, it doesn't matter all that much until you really need to prove it when it doesn't feel like it matters all that much. Like, does this game matter in the grand scheme of things? Maybe not to some of these players, but it really should to all of them. Being a rival, making sure you still somewhat hold on to your college football playoff hopes. And just in general, you got to get these wins in front of the fans and in front of the recruits if you want to transition into a better offseason. So I liked how Sark addresses the rumors this week. I think the team sounds from what he said, bought in from what we've heard from inside Texas. Just got to hope they put out a good product on Saturday.
Thank you, Evan. Ian, you're muted. But start with the Arkansas offense, please, sir, versus the Texas defense. They got a quality offense on that side of the ball. Quarterback, we did some tight end film study as well, and they got some backs that are making plays with a good play caller in Petrino. So got to be aware of those boys.
Yeah, this is kind of the dilemma of this week, is that Texas has pass defense issues that have been cropping up in the last few games. Got to shore those up as best you can, because Taylon Green can throw. Omega 13 can catch. And they've got this one tight end that's like somehow a deep threat with like 400 receiving yards and 13 catches or something insane.
Yeah.
Rohan Jones, is that it? So you got to be very aware of that. You got to patch that up. But then the main thing you need to do this week is defend the option soundly. If you don't do that, nothing else matters. So that's tricky to navigate where you're like, we got to overhaul our pass defense. We got to go over all these rules. We got to get all this stuff right. Also, we got to defend the option this week or we're going to get just reamed a different way. So they have to be option sound. Arkansas has a million ways to run the ball. They're all effective. Their line is cohesive. Veterans. Taylon Green, if he gets on the edge and in space, he looks like Vince Young. The running back, Mike Williams, right, is powerful. He's also very good on the perimeter. They can go between the tackles. Normally, you wouldn't worry too much about a Pete Kwiatkowski defense presenting a good, sound front against the option and playing it really clean. But, I think we're all in a little bit of wait-and-see mode to make sure that they can still flip that switch to get a win like this.
Yeah. Before we hit the Arkansas defense, which things are a lot more rosy on that matchup, let's hear a word from Laura Baker.
If you're looking for a home in the Austin area, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. Laura's a part of the elite Andy Allen team at Keller Williams Realty. She's helped Longhorns find their dream homes all over Central Texas. You can just ask our very own Ian Boyd, who moved from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Whether you're searching in Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, San Marcos, or even parts of the 254 or the 210, Laura has you covered. So call 512-784-0505, or you can email her at laura@andyallenteam.com. She's a Longhorn, a friend of Inside Texas, and the person you need to call to get your next home in Central Texas. Call Laura Baker today. Contact info is in the description.
The Arkansas offense is a real threat, and if the path through the upset. The Arkansas defense is the inverse of them. They've been awful statistically and just some eye test stuff. Hopefully they don't play a better game, but what's going on that side of the ball? They're in a ton of these close games somehow amazingly, but that's the real opportunity for Texas if Arch and company can carve them up.
I thought I was doing this segment.
Go ahead.
There's not a whole much more to say. They've kind of been I noted their lineup against LSU, which played a lot better, decently well, not great still. And I went back to see if it was the same lineup they'd been using in previous weeks since Petrino took over and overhauled the defensive staff, and it wasn't. They've been kind of searching for something that works. They had Xavier Saray, who's a transfer from Georgia, I believe. They had him at like inside linebacker much of the year. They played him on the edge against LSU. They've played multiple fronts, but recently they've played like a big 3-down front with a 275-pound end, a 320-pound end, and a 380-pound nose tackle. That's what they did last week. They have decent linebackers. The secondary is a mess. It's all transfers. They try to do a lot of things. They don't do any of them super well. So I think that Texas needs to take advantage of Arkansas in space, which is pretty much true for Texas against any SEC defense. You got to hit Wingo on the bubble screen and hope he doesn't slip. You got to throw the ball around, target Emmett Mosley 5 to 10 times, target DeAndre Moore 5 to 10 times, maybe try to find Livingston in the red zone and just let Arch try to win this game. I would worry about what would happen if they try to establish the run against Arkansas. I don't know if they can do it. I think Arkansas is just starting to figure out how to be sound enough against the run to stuff Texas's somewhat feeble attack. I don't think you want to try to do that unless you've got a lead and you come back to it and you're trying to put Arkansas away. I think maybe Texas could do that. They definitely need to do that next week. But this is definitely not a week to try to backtrack on offense. It needs to be Arch Manning, spread sets, flinging the ball around early and often.
Jose asked, do you think Texas is one great assistant coach away from overcoming their areas of weakness?
If that great assistant coach is Nick Saban,
Yeah,
this is roster management and development. This isn't one great assistant coach away from the mountaintop.
I agree. Anyone disagree? Anyone going to give us a hot take here? We're going to do it an ESPN thing. No one's going to yell.
All right.
You don't have the Tony Reale little button thing to give me points, and I should have got points for that.
That's
How
true.
does Drake
four big staff positions.
What would you say, Beef? Would you say?
How does Drake May not know this show exists? You'll see that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He knows the show exists. He just didn't know Captain Cam Newton was on that show.
A little known industry secret. Stephen A. watches this show religiously.
Yeah,
that's true. That's actually true.
Draws all his inspiration from. Don't let him pretend like he doesn't know about Inside Texas and our live morning shows. He definitely does.
Yeah, no question. Joe, you're standing in for Big E-Dog, and these are big shoes to fill. But you're our team news guy. Bring us home. What's going on with the squad?
Well, I can't let Ted Coy be referenced in Belleville and not get a shout out. So have to do that for our guy Eric. But this week, just kind of looking over some of the notes that Inside Texas gathered, you may see a little bit more of that dollar package. I wrote about it earlier this week, the 3-1-7 that has 7 defensive backs, and I had to liken it to a 3-4 just to kind of put guys all over the place. But you see Jonah Williams on the field, you see Xavier Filsaime, Michael Taff. We'll see what happens with Anthony Hill at that spot, but you just see a lot of difference. You see a lot of speed on the field. And Arkansas has had a good passing offense this year. Omega Blake is Omega 13, as Ian keeps referring to him. Charlotte transfer, good player, a player I think would not look out of place on a roster like Texas. So that's someone to track. And you'll probably see if Texas gets Arkansas in these third and long situations, you may see a little bit more of that package. At the same time, they know Taylon Green is where everything starts and ends for Arkansas. I think he's got like 400 something touches between rushes and passes this year. He's got 700 something rushing yards. Sark talked a lot about Bobby Petrino and his ability to add quarterback run into his system. So there's a very big emphasis on stopping Green and stopping his legs this upcoming week on defense. Even if Anthony Hill is not out there, there's some speed with guys with Ty Anthony Hill and Leongo LaFau that they trust and Sark talked up. So making sure that Taylon Green is limited a little bit is going to be big. In addition to LaFau and Smith, expect to see a little bit more of guys like Brad Spence, guys like Cade Phillips and Justice Terry. Terry made the most of the very end of that Georgia game, had some good reps. Sark talked him up. Cade Phillips, I kind of feel bad for him because he didn't have bad coverage on that touchdown pass that technically went against him. It was a good throw from Gunnar Stockton right there to Noah Thomas, and he got beat on an inside move, but just that much. Those are the margins. It's a play I bet he'll make. And then Justice Terry, this is someone who adds a different element and someone who's, kept his head down and worked hard according to Sark. So maybe you'll see him in some of the packages where they need that defensive lineman to maybe play a little bit of a 4-eye and maybe play a bit of a 5 just because, Petrino talked about Texas throws so many different fronts and Arkansas is expecting a lot of different fronts. As far as offense goes, we've seen a lot of screens from Texas. Probably see some more screens from Texas. There's not a lot of faith in what the Arkansas defensive secondary is able to do as far as tackling. I bet, much to Ian's chagrin, that they'll try to work on running the ball, establishing the run such a cliche, but they'll try to retain some balance, even though I think everybody can kind of see that the short, quick passing game is what's the way to go with this team. You'll probably see some Ryan Wingo in that screen game. And then, overall, this is a team that, I'm sure there's some frustration for being 7-3 right now and not being able to play for the SEC championship. But, the 2-game season thing has been well received, and I think the goal of winning these next 2 games, finding out what comes after it, that's been well received by the locker room. But they have to win these games. There's not a whole lot of difference between 9-3 and 7-5 when you look at these games at what could happen. So Texas needs to make sure that they're on their way to 9-3 after this week with a chance against A&M, and it sounds like that's where everybody's kind of taken that in the locker room, received it well, even with everything else going on outside of it, from Desmond Howard's driveway to Diana Rossini's phone.
The God's ears. Well, here's the thing, too. If you want the playoff chances, winning's not enough. You have to actually, blow teams out, both teams. And so it's here it's just get the win. Of course, for our mental health, it's just get the win. But if you're actually trying to get in the playoffs, just getting the win is not enough. So we need to see good performances versus both of these teams. And then for the rushing thing, Arkansas is 120th in rushing defense. Texas is 97th. So we'll see how that goes. So they're weak on run defense, but we're weak on rushing offense. So we'll see. Moving.
I don't know how consistent that is, because LSU popped them for a couple big runs, so that's reason for Texas to try to do likewise. But they also had I don't know if LSU's success rate running the ball was that great.
Well, our rushing explosivity is one of the worst in the country too. So it's
yeah.
So
it's hard.
It's called bad on bad.
Yeah,
it's hard to know. It's hard to know if Arkansas, how vulnerable to the run they'll be, especially against Texas. Even though they're ranked awful, they're just you just don't really know. You kind of got to assume the worst because of their jihad against Austin.
Yep. All right, predictions, fellas.
Hold on, Ian. I got to give you this. G-Hog.
There we go. That'll be it. Oh, you missed that. That could have been for a title of a post. All right, Justin. What's your prediction, man?
This is what I've been avoiding. You know what's funny? It's I've been very critical of the offense all year, and I've usually said Texas is going to score in high 10s, low 20s. And then we've kind of seen the offense evolve. We've seen the offensive line gel. We've seen some good stuff. The 11 personnel has been really, really positive. I actually think this is going to be a game where Texas chunks the ball around and scores points, because I think Arkansas is going to score points. I think it's going to be that kind of a pace of a game. That's going to be fun. It's going to keep you on your edge. And remember, the Hogs are going to bring a different mentality. The Hogs love beating Texas more than they love anything else in the world. And so, but I what we've seen from Arch Manning, I think he's getting better every single week. I think Joe wrote a story this week about each time his numbers are improving, his everything's going up. And so I like Texas 38-35. It's going to be close. I could see Texas getting up like they did on Vanderbilt, and then the SEC officials have their prop bets, and then you got to calculate all that. And then it wind up being close because, listen, Arkansas is going to score a lot of points. Listen, Bobby Petrino finds deficiencies in defenses. That's his MO. That's his religion. So I got Texas 38-35. It's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of fun in front of a lot of recruits, and they're going to get the W and look forward to a very, very big matchup with the Ags of Texas A&M next week.
Oh, yeah, that is next week. Evan, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, I think somewhat of the idea of the run game not really being able to be established, they're going to have to chunk the rock around. But this Arkansas defense is going to be able to be thrown above and passed and have a lot of yak. And as much as I usually come with the adage that drops can be, a little bit random, clearly with this Texas team, they're not. But Texas is a few drops away last game from having quite a few more points than they actually did against a far better defense. So I'm sticking to 38 with Justin. I'll go 38-28, no ref ball at the end there. Just they get a win, not the most comfortable, not your favorite with how the Texas defense is playing, but it's a 10-point win. I believe the line is 9.5, so technically Texas would take that.
Cool. Ian?
I'm going a little lower scoring than everybody else. I got Texas 27-24. I think Texas actually comes out in good shape and then struggles to hold on over the course of the game. But ekes it out at home. Kind of like last year. That was basically exactly what happened last year. It's like there's a bunch of games like this last year where Texas got up big and it was like Arizona State. Remember that? It's like
a
it's in the
blowout.
bag. It's in the bag to blow out. That happened like 3 or 4 times last year. And then they stopped scoring after the opening.
It happened every year.
That's true.
That's right.
It's been kind of a thing for a while.
Yeah, it's a thing. All right. Joe?
I've got a 27-17 Texas. I put this to everybody who writes in the roundtable. It's like you're the night before, you're Sark, and a genie comes to you and says, Arkansas will only score 25 points. Do you take that? You don't know if you win. You know if you lose. All you know is in tomorrow's game, Arkansas scores 25 points. I would have taken it because I have Texas scoring 27 points. I don't think Arkansas gets 25 points. I think, they may have, like I mentioned, the G-Hog, but I think this Texas defense is going to be able to account for the Taylon Green aspect of things. I think they're going to be able to account for what Arkansas tries to do in the pass game. And I think they're going to have learned some lessons from the Vanderbilt game as to what not to do in the fourth quarter. I know it may be a little bit different without Anthony Hill out there, but I still have some faith in him. And 2-8, still 2-8. I know they're good despite the 2-8. I know they've done good things despite the 0-6 record in SEC play. But teams that are 2-8, even with their quality, find ways to play or have results below their normal quality. And that's why I see Arkansas with 17 points and a good 10-point win for Texas.
I predict more great content coming up, both on the channel and on the board. $1 for your first week for those new members. Join Inside Texas. Recruiting news, team news, analysis, and a fun, lively board. Everyone, let's go get this win. It is very important. And hopefully it's a fun, smooth game. And then, of course, tune in for ITP later. And then pregame and postgame tomorrow. We'd love to see you. Everyone have a wonderful Friday and farewell.